In every collective bargaining agreement we have, there's going to be a grievance procedure in there. And I've probably processed well over 100 grievances in the last 11 or 12 years.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Tony Quillen is the business manager for IBEW Local 558. He is president of the State Electrical Workers and president of the North Alabama Building Trades. He's got a lot of hats, busy man. So, Tony, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm excited about being on this morning, and can't wait to see where it goes.
Absolutely. So let's start off with a little bit about you. You know, how did you get into the union? You told me yesterday that that your family wasn't in the union. You're one of the first people in your family to be in a union. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. No members of my family have ever been associated with organized labor at that point, and I made a good friend by the name of Gene Fulmer years ago. Gene's quite a few years older than I am, but he was a member of Local 558 dating back to the late 60s. And that was my pathway in. Back when I got in, it was a little bit of a country club mentality. It was hard to get in unless you had a lot of connections. But that was my connection, and that's been 22 years ago this past April. And so it's been a great career, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
And you talked about how, you're, some people talked about it in your union, like not having much growing up, and then talking about how their parents worked for the TVA, and that was not your, that wasn't your experience before you came into the union.
That's correct. I grew up in what I would consider real poverty in Alabama, born in 74, and I spent 1981, 1982 with no electricity. I remember taking a bath by wood-burning stove at night. We had coal oil lamps to light our home up at the time. And the school system actually bought me my shoes and jacket for first and second grade. And so after that, I was out in the country. I moved over and I grew up in what you call the projects or government housing. And that was the early years of my life, but that's also what I would consider a catalyst for me to try to do the best I could for myself and my family when I became an adult.
And going from that to the compensation that you receive as a union electrician is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it is. Big difference, and it just shows the power of collective bargaining, and it also shows the commitment of those that have beat this pathway down for us in the last 125, 30 years.
Right. What are some of the what is like the compensation that you talked yesterday? Y'all have got 27 different contracts. So obviously it's going to be a little bit different, but generally speaking, if I talk to somebody in IBEW 558, what does their compensation package look like? Well,
so that's a complex question. We start out and we train our apprentices. And so starting pay for apprentices is around a little over $15 an hour, plus they get their benefit package added in with that. But starting pay for a journeyman electrician in our area or in our local is $30 an hour, plus healthcare, plus 3 pensions going all at one time. But those numbers can go up. We've got members that made over $200,000 last couple of years because of how much work we're experiencing in North Alabama right now.
Yeah, the overtime, when you're talking about making $30, $40 an hour, overtime can really add up if you start working that. And y'all have got, what kind of work do y'all do?
Okay, we are primarily, Local 558 here is primarily what you would consider a heavy industrial local unions. Some local unions lean more toward commercial work. But primarily ours is automotive plants here in North Alabama, the data centers, Facebook. We have a nuclear plant, 4 hydros. We're doing a major upgrade at the former Colbert steam plant. We've got work at steel mills, ULA, 3M, Counts Paper Mill. We've got 13 co-ops and municipalities in North Alabama and Southern Tennessee. So essentially, it's like I told you yesterday, 9-volt to lightning bolt is.
Right. Yeah, and that's all over North Alabama.
And well, we have 10 counties in North Alabama and 4 in Southern Tennessee. So we've got 14 counties covering our jurisdiction. Gotcha.
And so if somebody is listening and maybe they are interested in joining IBEW 558, what are the different I mean, just my assumption would be that you can come in as an apprentice, but also if you're a non-union electrician, what are the ways as a non-union electrician that you can come in to the union?
Okay, so what we require, and there is an avenue or a pathway to do that, what we require is 5 years verified by your W-2s that you have worked in the electrical field. And if you have that, we will bring you in, we will give you a written test, we will give you a hands-on test, and we will interview you. And if you meet the qualifications for that, that is an avenue that you can come in. Most of ours come in through our apprenticeship program. Some of those have no experience. Some of those have several years of experience, but they want that education to come with it. But there are 2 different avenues that can bring you in.
And y'all's apprenticeship program, you said didn't you say something? It's received national recognition?
Yeah, so the IBEW at the international office, they've got their own production team. It's called IBEW Our Power. It's a pretty large outfit. Our local and our apprenticeship school a few years back was the 4th one that they came in and did a story on. And that's out of the United States and Canada, and which we have a large, highly respected program, but we're very proud of that.
How many apprentices did y'all graduate last year?
So last year we graduated, matter of fact, we graduated about 30 last week and then about 5 lines. But our classes now have grown quite a bit. So we've got 5 classes going right now, and now we've got 360. And so with the boom that's happened in the last couple of years here, we went from having classes the size of 30 to 35 to like 80 and 100. And so we've done the last 2.5, 3 years from basically 150 apprentices across the board to around 360.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and so what is that doing for y'all's market share here? I know that for, we talk, whenever we get tradespeople on, so one of the things that we often hit on is the differences between the trade unions and industrial unions, maybe like the machinists, right? Y'all basically supply labor to contractors, whereas, the machinists at ULA, they organized that company and they're not kind of expanding or bidding for other work. They're employees of that company, whereas it's a little bit different for the trades unions. And one of the things that is important for the trade unions is market share, because if you can increase your market share, obviously you increase your bargaining power.
Right. Yeah, and ours, and I don't know our exact numbers for 2021 and obviously this first half of 2022. I know our growth has went up tremendously. We went from 1,680 something members a couple of years ago to we're right at the threshold of 2,000 active members, and our total membership's around 2,800. But North Alabama has exploded. Obviously, you've got some major installations here. Mazda Toyota is going to $2.6 billion. It's going to employ 4,000 people. FBI is going to employ 4,000 people. I do not know how many is going to be employed at Facebook. We're doing other expansions, but we are growing, but this market is growing, and it's growing at an unbelievable rate right now. Yep.
Speaking of growing a little bit, this isn't something I talked to you about yesterday, but I just thought about it, and I'm wondering your thoughts. The IBEW has expanded in other states into representing coffee workers. The Starbucks workers have absolutely exploded across the United States. They've won over 100 union elections. They filed for like 300, and that's been with Starbucks Workers United, which is affiliated with Workers United, which is affiliated with SEIU. But the IBEW up in Wisconsin, I believe, they won a big union election at Collectivo Coffee, and now they're representing 100 baristas or something, and now they just announced that there's a union election somewhere else at another kind of local coffee chain. What is the response among the broader IBEW to expansions into different industries like that?
We fully support that. To expand on that a little bit, there are nursing home facilities, there are hospitals that are represented by the IBEW. There are security officers at nuclear plants. Just one contract we have on the Army base, one contract, I've got 47 different positions or skill sets there that we represent. So we'll take all that growth. We want as many people working on collective bargaining agreements as we can get. And one part of that, too, the IBEW is a very large union across North America, right at 800,000 members. And so that's a lot of name recognition and a lot of publicity with that. So that's why you're seeing that in different areas like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, when they released the press statement on the new union election at this other local coffee chain, the person who reached out to the IBEW for it, he said he saw somebody come in with an IBEW hat, and he remembered the Collectivo campaign, and he was like, "Oh, hey, would y'all can we organize with y'all here?" And they were like, "Well, hell yeah, let's do it." So that's a pretty cool attitude, I think. And the another thing that you were talking, just on the benefits of unionization, we talked about the compensation. You talked about the pensions. Obviously, healthcare is another big thing. I'm interested in what the healthcare differences are between your union electricians and the non-union electricians, but also, the job security kind of aspect. The idea knowing that you're protected going into work against unfair treatment, against being retaliated against or fired or disciplined for not fair cause, or you can obviously if you're a union electrician, you can be fired or you can be disciplined for not doing your job well, but you can't, your boss can't do that if he just walks in one day and he's unhappy, like, maybe him and his wife got into an argument or something, right? And you talked about a grievance that you that y'all won that you're really proud of, about this person was fired unjustly. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. Yeah, and in every collective bargaining agreement we have, there's going to be a grievance procedure in there, and the unions wholeheartedly, will always have that in their agreements. And so I've probably processed well over 100 grievances in the last 11 or 12 years. But one is very unique in the fact that we did have a member, based off of some very inaccurate information, that was terminated. And ironically, this member and myself, we didn't have a good personal relationship. And I think when this took place, I think he had some serious reservations or cautions about, how hard I would be fighting for him. And I remember our first meeting, I told him, I said, we'll pour everything on the line and we're going to do everything we can to help you. And so this process took 8 to 10 weeks. I did not know until towards the end of this member had not told his wife that he was terminated. He received and he hit it off. And he got up every morning at 3 o'clock, and he left his house, and he came back home every day at the time that he normally got home. And it was all the way up to the end that he informed his wife of what was going on. But the good thing about this right here is the partnership that the IBEW had with this employer, this contractor, is strong. It's a longstanding partnership. And contrary to what people believe, everything is not always oil and water. It's not always a grueling battle. And we pride ourselves in building those partnerships for situations like this. And so we got to the point that we got to federal mediation. And once all of the facts came to life, this employee was reinstated. This employee, and this has been 7 years ago, and he has been a model employee. And it's just fostered our relationship and our partner, not only with me and that member, but me and that company, him and that company. And it's just been and there was a lot of personal things that happened for him during this process that, that I can't speak of. But again, it just shows that sometimes these grievances are not as bloody as people would think they are, and they do have happy endings.
Yeah, I think that's something to, a lot of times, or we're seeing Starbucks really go to the mat against their workers, and I think that the degree to which workers being happy on the job can improve their performance, can improve worker morale. The idea that workers feel like they're being taken care of, that they're respected, that they're valued as partners, as members of the team. I think that management, bosses, executives, and people just kind of out in the world, they really underestimate that as a driver of performance and of the employee, and then as a result of that, of the company.
Yep. And most people think unions are formed just to get people more money, and that's not always the case. I mean, compensation is like third or fourth on the priority list for most workers. And then the other thing that we've got going right now is support for organized labor is really high, right at 70%, I think. So, yeah, it's a unique environment. I hope it continues to move in that direction. I think that's how the middle class grows. But it's not always about the money. It is about the respect. It's about stability. It's about being able to have a life outside of your job, not being a slave to your employer. And a lot of people beat up whatever the youngest generation is at that time. A lot of people beat up on that generation. But this young generation we're seeing now, they have a lot of they're passionate about having a life outside of their work. I guess that's just the broadest way that I can put that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm certainly not interested myself in being a slave to my job. I want enough money that I can be comfortable. And after that, I'm not really interested in making even, $200, $300, $400, $1 million a year. Like, I want to make enough money that I can go on vacation every now and then I want to spend as much of my time as possible doing whatever the hell I want. And that's the big thing that I like about, that unions can support, and having a good union job is that I have plenty of time off and with good compensation. And that's the thing that's important to me. And I think that's, like you said, that's something that's really important, especially to younger people, because, I think that folks nowadays are seeing the importance maybe of that work-life balance in a way that hasn't always been the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And, unions were primarily formed based off of the fact that people were working 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day, very dangerous, deadly jobs. And so with this growth of Americans accepting and favoring unions, it's kind of like we're getting back to our ground game of the late 1800s.
Right. I think so. Tony, I appreciate your time. If anybody is interested in, if they're a non-union electrician, if they are somebody that's only been in it a few years and maybe they want to do an apprenticeship, or maybe they're a local coffee worker and they're like, oh, well, maybe I want to unionize with the IBEW. How do they get in contact with y'all?
Very easy. We are, you can Google us, and our number's 256-383-2279. We are on Facebook. It's just IBEW 558. And we are very easy to get in touch with, and we're willing to help everybody we can help.
Absolutely. And of course, you'll be able to hear his phone number on our ads, on the ads that they've got playing on our program. IBEW 558 is a sponsor of the program, and we appreciate y'all's support. Tony, thank you for your time. Holler at me if you ever have any good stories for us, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Jacob. Y'all have a great day.
All right, man.
Thanks,
too.
Tony.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that was Tony Quillen. He is business manager of IBEW Local 558, president of the State Electrical Workers, president of the North Alabama Building Trades. You heard how you can get in touch with him, so do that if you are interested in joining the union or unionizing your workplace.
Or if you're an educator and you're talking to young people, if you work in a community college, something like that.
If you're a high school teacher, if you're a tech teacher, definitely reach out to them for that. That way, I think that's so important. Even I think that, college is something that's been pushed on young people to an unhealthy degree, and I think we're starting to move away from that a little bit. But even as we move away from that, the trade unions are not being emphasized to the degree that they should be.
Yeah, certainly not here in Alabama. So
certainly not here in Alabama.
So yeah, anytime I have an opportunity, I'm going to throw that out there that we need more partnerships between our schools and our trade union apprenticeship programs, because these are opportunities for young people to go to work and be treated with dignity, to have the compensation and benefits that they need to really get started as a young adult out here in the workforce and raise a family.
Yeah.
And so, if you know some people who are at a career transition phase or they just graduated high school, just left, hey, steer them this way. See if this is an opportunity they would be interested in, because it could be, a game changer for them.
And you heard him, starting wages is $15 an hour with benefits.
While you're learning. So that's great.
And then you start at $30 an hour, $30-something an hour as a journeyman with those benefits, with 3 pensions, with health care, with a grievance procedure, with a procedure that you can be reinstated if you've been unfairly terminated, with back pay. I mean, just so many benefits that you are not going to get. And this is another thing we didn't touch on. He touched on it briefly. The IBEW is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. International. Across the United States and Canada, they've got locals there. And what does that mean? That means if work dries up for some reason, which we're not anticipating that, obviously, with the way that North Alabama is moving, but let's just say it does. In 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, something happens, work dries up in North Alabama. Well, there's going to be work somewhere else.
Right.
And you can fill one of those jobs.
Or maybe you're interested in leaving.
Maybe you're interested in leaving and going and working, traveling somewhere else. You can't do that with some local podunk non-union contractor.
Yeah.
It's just not there. It's just not there. The opportunities that you've got to maintain a job is just not there with some non-union local contractor. And Tony said in the chat, he said, we actually do several visits to schools in North Alabama and Southern Tennessee.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Love to hear that, Tony. And maybe we can get one of those teachers on the program to talk to us about how their students receive that at some point. That would be really great. Covering 800,000 workers across North America. And yes, you can work through the entire country as an IBEW member. That's such a huge benefit. I mean, having that to fall back on in a time of recession that, and obviously, look, you don't want to move. A lot of times, a lot of people don't want to move. They don't want to uproot their lives. But that is something that trade union members can fall back on. That as a non-union electrician, you don't have that to fall back on. You just don't. The idea that there's going to be a job somewhere for you in the country. So we appreciate Tony.
Good stuff from Tony, for sure.
Good stuff. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.